All right, so now I remember what I was thinking before even recording the video, what I was initially thinking, and I was trying to add that to the video that I had just recorded, but um, I just forgot. I was trying to think about it again, and I forgot. But now I remember. It's pretty late already, but I wanted to do it before I end up forgetting again. But I've been seeing videos. I'm always seeing videos on YouTube. Um, um, like people exchanging ideas. Like I watch I watch a lot of Joe Rogan videos. Um, actually, not that much. Every now and then I come across one of his videos interviewing people, and then just random videos that I see on my feed on YouTube that has to do with people thinking, sharing topics of things that happen in the universe and whatever. But what I've been hearing, like in I think several interviews, including maybe one of the Joe Rogan interviews, um, like the topic of the way how UFOs, extraterrestrial life, possibly perceive us, and they try to say that supposedly they're so far advanced that them seeing us is could be related. It, it could be compared to the way how we perceive animals, like the way how we experiment and we observe animals. You know, we monitor their behavior to see how they react with certain things, and um, kind of like a lab rat, you know, or how how we seen how I've heard in interviews people say like how we view monkeys. You know, they're like humans. We're fascinating by observing animals, but we know that their level of intelligence comes to a limit, and we just leave it as that, you know. So we're just entertained, but we don't take it serious because we know that there's no comparison in intelligence. So there's no way that we could benefit or progress by interaction with animals. So in the interviews I've heard, like several interviews, that's likely how life outside sees us, because obviously they're far beyond, more beyond advanced in technology than us. So they probably see us the same way, like a zoo, like humans sees a zoo and see all these animals. So they just see us and we're just entertainment to them. And in a way, I do agree, but that the way how I see in interviews, they make it appear like our intelligence level is just so pathetic and so extremely low. And so like I said, I do agree that we are like a source of entertainment to them, and very likely stupid too, at many points, many perspectives. But just because we're much lower, um, you know, we could be much lower in intelligence. I don't think it's the same analogy, the same scenario that we fit in. The way how we observe animals and insects, I don't think that we fit that same scenario, because even though they're far beyond, there's still a difference. You know, we still can't be compared to animals because there's a progression. There's still evolution taking place within our productivity. You know, we're constantly advancing. We're constantly modernizing ourselves. We're constantly um, breaking layers, barriers. We're constantly exploring and discovering and experimenting, and yeah, we're just constantly progressing, you know. And our resources are expanding too, and our abilities therefore are expanding as well. So them being able to recognize much more, they could acknowledge that too. They could see that, they could see our behavior, they could see, so just like they're able to see our behavior, they could see our technological advancements and progression in all ways. They're able to acknowledge and identify that. So we don't fit the same scenario to be compared to animals. So we're not. I don't believe that we're like lab rats, the way how we see animals and lab rats and just any animal in general. That's the way, because they're beyond in intelligence. That's the same way that they see us, like a monkey, or not necessarily so. I think that they just see, yeah, like I said, like a source of entertainment in many ways, but also they're also able to see that there's something there, and then that's what keeps their interest. I think that's just my perspective, so they continue to visit and they continue to monitor. And I've heard about the sighting of the Black Knight satellite. Supposedly that it just randomly has reappeared like throughout time. Before satellites were even invented, before there was even satellites, a Black Knight satellite was already surrounding the planet, the Earth, and it would just it has randomly been caught, and it wasn't from human origin, and I believe its existence, and I think it's it's used for the purpose to monitor, and it goes to them somewhere, to wherever it is that it created it, to gather information. So for sure, I do believe that we're being observed, for sure, but I don't think we're being seen as the same as animals, though. We're definitely not a threat, though. That's why our existence continues on. But we're also not being looked as animals. They're able to identify that there's progression taking place. So for me, it's more like curiosity, trying to see where are they gonna go with this, where are they leading to. That's a possibility, or it could be, when do we go in, and maybe help, or I don't know. That, for me, that's the mysterious part. I don't know the intention behind the monitoring, but I do believe that we're being monitored, and that we're not being seen as the same level as we see us, our intelligence, to animals. It's not the same thing. Like, oh yeah, to the way how you guys see monkeys, that's how we see you guys. Like, I don't think that's how it is. It's just like, yeah, you guys are not at the same level, the same capacity, mental capacity as us in many ways, but you're also not animals. So we're monitoring you, and that I can't explain. I don't know the reason behind that. Maybe they're able to see that there's good humans and there's bad, and that's why they haven't done anything. Maybe, I don't know. For me, it's just, they're just curious. Maybe they're just curious minds, just the way humans are curious, and they could understand empathy. Maybe they could experience it. Maybe, yeah. Who knows? That I don't know. But I'm just saying that I don't think that they see us the same way. As far as advanced as they are, technological wise, mental wise, and everything. Um, it's different. That's what that's what I'm trying to get to. Is different. And then the other thing, yeah, I was trying to say, I did mention it, but I didn't get too into detail as I wanted to. Yeah, just how scientists, you know, all these researchers limit themselves. I think it's stupid how they try to um, they constrict themselves to try to identify life, whether a living organism or a habitable place elsewhere, by requiring the same necessities that a human requires. It's stupid, like I said, microscopic creatures, you know, are living organisms, and they exist even with different needs. I've heard, I remember reading an article recently where they discovered like sharks a long time ago, or maybe recently, I'm not sure, that were living like in the lava. Like, there's no way. Like, but somehow it was still happening. So that just goes to show that everybody adapts to the environment and thrives to the environment. Whatever the environment is given, they eventually they adapt. So, you know, so nobody knows what the needs are for existence. Just because you require certain needs doesn't mean that all the organisms everywhere, living organisms, are going to require the same thing. That doesn't make sense. You know. You know. Um, it's like the same thing. Like, we have all these ingredients that make this planet cohabitable for us, because this planet has all these ingredients. When we try to visit other planets, we can't because it doesn't have those ingredients. So the only way to make those places cohabitable is by terraforming. Like, they talk about terraforming Mars, but you have to compose those ingredients to make it livable for us. You know. So that's why they create like spacesuits, so we could be able to make these missions and visit, these places. But they're able to also visit here from wherever they come from. And what am I trying to go with this? I kind of lost myself. If we're able to exist with the chemicals and ingredients that we have, like right here, why do we have to say that it has to be the same elsewhere? That's what I was really trying to say. Um, there was something else, but I'm kind of losing my train of thought right now. Now I'm just not making sense. Um, Man, there was something I wanted to say, but um, it's like recently too. Every now and then I read articles where they just randomly pop up on my feed where they mention, um, because we only know about 5%, I think, of the sea. The remaining 95% we don't know. It's too deep. Um, but every now and then they discover more deep sea creatures where supposedly it's not habitable. But it's habitable for them because they were able to adapt. They just their needs, their ability to thrive and live on is just different. You know. So same with other places. Other different planets. Organisms are gonna thrive based on their environment. They're gonna exist based on their environment, regardless of what they are. Microscopic organisms or whatever living creatures that they are, you know. And just because we know of the elements that we know from our periodic table, we don't know what exists elsewhere. There could be more elements that we're not aware of because they're just not on this planet, but they could exist in elsewhere, you know. There could be many more different elements that could exist elsewhere, and so they could thrive differently because of those elements, because of access to that, you know. And their existence relies on that too. And so in a way, it's kind of like if they were to think like, how could, it's like an ignorant, like this would be ignorant to think like if it was them identifying us, like, no, you know, they shouldn't exist because they don't have this certain element. It's not found on that planet, you know. So there shouldn't be life on that planet that we have discovered light years away, you know, based on the technological creations that we have, that we could determine what type of chemicals exist on those planets. We're able to identify that element that's in our periodic table, whatever it is that they call their table, or, you know, their graph of chemicals or whatever ingredients. Yeah, we're not able to determine that they have several chemicals and several elements exist over there. So there's definitely no way that there's life on that planet, you know, our planet, which is Earth, and whatever it is that they call it, you know. So it'll be ignorant to think like that too, you know, when in reality we don't have, it might be true that we don't have those chemicals, but we do live because we have, you know, oxygen and, you know, et cetera, and they might not even need oxygen, you know. It's different chemicals that don't even exist right here, if that makes any sense. So, you know, there could be, like I said, there could be a lot more different elements and chemicals that exist elsewhere that we don't know of, and that they could thrive on, and they required it in order to exist, when we don't require those elements, and we don't even know of those elements, and we require different elements to live that they don't even need to exist. You know, that's the way how I see things. So yeah, I'll finish it off with that. And I was kind of whispering because it's starting to get a little bit, how do I say, crowded where I'm at. And also because I'm sleepy too. I should have been asleep a while back, but I came up with these thoughts. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of, but I didn't mention in the video. Now I did. So yeah, that's it. Peace out. Take care.